It's,
Three,
it
two.
hasn't gone live yet. Give me a
Oh, it
second.
said that it was on my end. 3, 2. All right. It says live for me. Is it not saying live for you?
Yeah, but I was going to tell you the episode. It's 471.
471. Yeah.
Right.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode number 471 of the Mailright Show. And today we have a fancy title for the show, but really what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the real estate assistant companies, places that you can find and source real estate VAs, which we feel strongly is one of the most important elements of a professional real estate agent's toolkit that is a medium to long-term vet in the industry. Before we get into this subject, though, both John and I have used virtual assistant type resources in building our businesses. And I've worked with virtual assistant type resources for 30 years. So we have a lot to say on the subject, I think. John,
well, you probably will, because you've got a lot more experience in this topic than me.
Well, I'm not going to disagree on this one. Give us a little intro, though, John, and give us a little bit of background on how you built your business. As you give the intro, why don't you give a little bit of background on the places that you actually use, like overseas resources, maybe, or just a little, top level thought about it.
Yeah, sure. I'm the joint founder of Mailright, mail-right.com. We're a easy to use CRM and with a real strong focus on providing lead generative tools as part of the CRM. And it starts at around $50, $49 per month if you pay month to month. So it's really affordable, folks. And it's easy to use. So my thoughts about, well, I think I've used a bit of Upworks. That takes a lot of time. There have been bigger projects and sometimes I've had success and other times it's been a heap of failure. Mm-hmm. But on reflection, that was more down to me not having a kind of process that you have, which you have talked about in previous episodes. Mm-hmm. For some projects, I've had more success using Fiverr, actually, where it's a very narrow deliverable that I wanted. And the people have clear evidence of a lot of experience and a lot of examples, and they're a premier Fiverr supplier. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on Fiverr, but for getting an intro for a video or maybe getting a bit of audio work, I do have on a long-term retainer a audio editor that helps me with these podcasts. Mm-hmm. But if I only had a one-off or I was looking maybe for a long-term and I was just trying different people out, I think Fiverr can work out. I've actually, on the right project, I've had more success and more quicker success than Upworks. Upworks, I really wouldn't recommend it to somebody that hasn't got any experience in hiring offshore staff, because I really think you really got to understand what you're getting involved with. Over to you, Rob.
Brilliant. So my name is Robert Newman. I'm the founder of Inbound REM. I'm your second co-host. I'll be the voice that usually steers a little bit more than John, but it's John who founded the show Mailright, and John who also has founded numerous companies in different tech spaces, SaaS. He's got a couple of podcasts. I am an SEO expert and also happen to have a very deep pedigree in running very large call centers, which is why I've worked with overseas resources actually for almost the entirety of my career, John. It's been since I've been 19. So, and I'm 54. So, in my
I would never guess.
My experience has been, and I have about 20 day-to-day overseas resources that I've hired and trained for inbound REM, but I've leaned very heavily on my experience hiring in mass, and very much I've taken the road less traveled. I've flown to the Philippines. I've met with the people that I've hired. Every single person that works for me right now, with only a couple of exceptions, even at the lowest possible end of the company, I've actually met. Because you can get good work from people, no doubt. You don't have to meet them. You don't have to fly to them. There is a vastly different buy-in, though, when they feel connected to what you're doing, even if they're just people on a retainer. So, which is just it's the same way that you get great performance out of sales teams. You train them, you pay attention to them, you hold them, you nurture them, and when they can really produce, they tend to stay loyal. Because oftentimes by the time you train them up to produce a lot, they roll on to other sales teams, especially if you've not done a very good job in training them. If they had to learn everything on their own, they bail on you as soon as they can. So in terms of hiring overseas resources, number one, let me just say that I think it's absolutely critical for real estate agents. Okay, and that's number one, literally the introduction to the show. Why should we talk about this? Because you can pay somebody $5 an hour to create a thumbnail for you, or you can go to Fiverr and spend $15 and get 5 different iterations of a thumbnail. And honestly, you can get it with less effort and less thought than even using AI. They simply deliver the product to you on Fiverr, and they do so for such a low amount of money. I'm not even sure that it makes sense to muck around with AI applications, even though they literally just deliver done for you thumbnails, like on vidIQ. I still think that there's space for Fiverr and other tools. And to reiterate, to comment on what you said, John, I've had exactly the same experience, no doubt. If I was hiring for my original blog post for my customers were all done off a Fiverr guy who just wrote these things super fast. And my original, there was so much that we did with Fiverr. The only time I started to get outside of Fiverr was when I wanted to train people to be part of my team on a permanent, ongoing basis. And then I started to get outside of Fiverr because Fiverr simply didn't provide the commitment that I needed to build the kind of infrastructure that I wanted for inbound REM. I wanted somebody to answer client emails 24/7, basically. I wanted to hand off an inbound REM email address, and I wanted to have these people take ownership of customer communication. That is not stuff that you can do using a Fiverr resource. Yeah. So, but you're right in the sense that I had to spend a year training these people to get them to a place where they could do the work that I'm talking about, to answering emails, answering questions. They had to know what the answers were that I wanted provided. They had to learn from me for a full year before they were qualified. I still only have 3 resources that are approved to talk to customers out of 20 people. You're right. It takes a ton of time to train, to teach, to make sure that somebody's upholding your values. But you can also go another route, which is what John is focused on for today's show. And I couldn't agree more, because here's the other route that you can go, John, which you pointed out. You can hire some companies to do it for you, who are good at individual tasks. You can also hire companies that specialize in hiring real estate VAs. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So one of the very first questions that I think you very smartly ask is, what are some of the key things a real estate agent needs to look at before hiring a VA services provider? So what were some of the things that you came up with that you would look for before hiring somebody?
Oh, I'm just going to throw it back to you, because I just think you've got a lot more experience than this. My development team, I have a couple US-based developers that I met through my endeavors in the WordPress community by going to WordPress word camps, and I have a small group of US-based WordPress. And then I adopted a team offshore from somebody who was getting out of WordPress web development. They were semi-retiring and they were actually moving to Costa Rica. And they said they were closing shop, and they had this team that had been working for them for about 6 or 7 years. And she said, do you want to adopt them? And I said, yeah, I'll adopt them, because I had used them as a bit of overflow when I was needing some. I was a bit pushed. We were a bit pushed. We were using them as an overflow service, and they were pretty good. So I adopted them. She said, go work for Jonathan. And that was about 7 years ago.
All right. Well, when I'm hiring for VAs, especially when I'm hiring off large message board type services. Now, I'm using antiquated language, but there are services where you can install an ad and then you find people. And LinkedIn is turning themselves into that. Twitter is even starting to aim in that direction, like hiring employees. And I got to tell you, John, that one of the reasons I continue to use Upwork is they have a filter that allows me to target certain countries. And that's one thing I've learned. Please, nobody who's listening to the show message me, but I have tried Pakistan and Indian resources over and over again. And while I've had success for a couple of years, the employees in these countries are usually so pressured for certain types of success that I never keep anybody over a year or two. And then I end up having to retrain them. Whereas my Philippines team, which has all been with me for 7, 8 years, they're still with me, every single person. Nobody's ever left. And that is really important to me, John. So when I'm looking for somebody, I stick with 2 countries. That's it. I go with Macedonia, and that's when I want people that speak English better. And I'm willing to pay a couple bucks more per hour. And then what I'm looking for, when you're looking for a VA, first of all, it's the country that they come from. And then secondly, what it is you're looking for, honestly, it's like, number one, I look for people that have a spotless record on Upwork. Like, I don't mess around with people that got like an 89%. I look for people who are 5-star. I look for people that are newer into their career. They don't have 100,000 hours worked. Why? Because generally people on Upwork that have 10, 20, 30,000 hours worked, or even 1,000 hours worked, they have set clients that they're already really invested in. And I am looking for somebody to go to build into working for me full time and basically always being available to me as a resource. That usually means I'm looking for people with like a lower level of hours worked, but a 5-star review.
So before we go for our break and talk maybe about some of these companies that are on this list, what are a couple of tips, insights that, you know, when a real estate agent is looking at these various companies that provide via virtual assistant, how do they make, apart from the price, are there a couple of insights that you can give that they need that would help them make maybe a better choice rather than just...
It's all about just being really diligent. And this is the part that frustrates me, John, is that I've said this before and people don't listen. And, you know, when you're on Upwork, here's one of
Are you talking about me?
No, I mean, I don't know what you do or don't do, but here's one of the first things I do when I'm on Upwork. And it's so basic. I'm always gobsmacked that people don't do this. I don't just look at their resume, because anybody can say anything they want on a resume. And actually, most of the time on Upwork and other places, most cultures lie. They lie on their resume. Indians, Pakistanis do it all the time. They don't really have the work history that they said that they have. So I go into a portfolio and look to see if they have a portfolio. And if they do have a portfolio, I absolutely look at the examples, and then I try to verify in some way that the person that I'm talking to, if I really like the example, I try to verify that the person I'm talking to actually did the work. Okay. So that's a multi-step process. Sometimes it means reaching out to the person whose project it was. And I do all of that before talking to the resource, because if they didn't really do the work, I don't want to waste my time talking to them. So I verify their reviews and I verify their work. And if I like them, like I find the work that I like, and then I verify and that takes care of 80% of it. By the time I'm ready to talk to somebody, I know I want to talk to them. I'm already pretty sure that there's somebody worth talking to. It's just a matter of, are they responsive? And that is one thing that I do that is a great litmus test to everybody who's listening to the show, because you're asking me for tips and hacks. Well, here's a quick hack. You can send an initial comment to somebody on these services. Usually you can message them. In Upwork you can, and you go, hey, I'm looking at your resume and checking your reviews. I just wanted to let you know. And why would I send a message like that? I just like to test responsiveness. That's it. I'm not making a commitment. I'm not telling them I want to. They'll always go, like in the Philippines and everywhere else, they're very aggressive most of the time. They're like, oh yeah, you want to set up? I'm like, no, I'm not ready to set up a call with you yet. I just letting you know I'm looking at your resume. I want you to look at mine. I want you to look at because you know me, John. I have a 5-star history everywhere I go, and I've got like a AAA rating on Upwork. It's like I've spent $500,000 there, and every single person that's ever worked for me has given me a 5-star review on the Upwork side. So I want somebody to really check me out the same way I'm checking them out. So it's like, hey, check me out. And then I'm checking you out. That's all this is letting you know I'm checking you out. And if they don't respond, I move on.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying with a company is spend a bit of time looking at the reviews of each company, and then do an outreach and see how quickly and how they respond to you. Is that basically?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go to break in a second here, guys, and John, but I want to say something that I think is really relevant. It does take a lot of time to find somebody good, but John, all the success I've had, all the benefits of having a company, it has all come on the backs of my employee search skills. That's it. That is where I have been, where I really shine. That's what the telemarketing business taught me to do, is hire thousands of people, and I've done that. And you really want to be very diligent and go step by step inside hiring somebody. Check their reviews, check who they've worked with. Because once you hire them, oftentimes you're done with that for years if you hired right. Like you'll find your assistant and you'll be done. So yes, is it a lot of time? It sure is. But my God, can somebody good change your entire career trajectory?
Would you, before we go for our break, would you hope that one of the differences between trying to hire direct and utilizing one of these companies, I'm only surmising this, is that they should have a process. They should be open and showing you their process to hire their team members to you, and have some process of that identifies fitting the right team member in their own organization with the right type of agent.
I would certainly hope so. My challenge, you're asking a very, very good question. I've certainly tried to hire subcontracting companies out before, and what I always find is they fall far short of my personal benchmarks for success. Like I want complete trackability. I have all my people on time trackers, and that's on top of the fact that I used to have them on Upwork and they were getting tracked screen by screen. And I use that shit, John. I use it every day. I don't slack off on it. I don't watch everything that everybody does, but I check. I do what's called a spot check. I look at one little thing, but I do it every single day. I'm very consistent about it. So everybody knows that somebody's work is getting checked every single day. And in the beginning of the company, when I first started this thing, I found all sorts of people doing all sorts of shady and strange things. Okay. that hasn't happened in years now. My team is really good, but I still spot check. And do I find that other people who have contracting companies do that level of diligence? I don't. So I don't hire from subcontracting companies. They just don't have my level of attention to detail. They don't care about the result as much as I do. They don't care about the people they hire as much as I do. But there's one thing we're seeing though, John, and you and I have talked about this privately offline before. I also take a lot of big chances with my people. Like I have given out loans. I've taken care of health issues. I've bought cars for my people. I've really vest heavily in my teams because I don't expect, but I want complete commitment on their end. But to get it, you really have to be committed yourself, even to overseas teams. So, and I want complete commitment from my subcontractors, and you don't get it. They don't even come close to that kind of diligence, which is why I hire direct. That's why I hire direct, because I know I'm gonna step that game up. That's why half the reason I started Inbound REM is so that I had that direct one-to-one contact with the people doing the work. We're gonna go to break, and when we come back, we're going to get into a couple of companies that you can hire. Please don't, everybody listening to the show, don't take everything I said as like some kind of de facto, you shouldn't hire a company. Because for most people, you do want to hire a company. So we're going to cover some companies that you can hire when we come back from break. And stay tuned, because that will be in just a moment. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to episode number 471 of the Mail-Right podcast. Today we're talking about virtual assistants. And before we went to break, we promised you a few companies that we were going to talk about in 2025. First on our list is Summit VA Solutions. Now, John, you definitely have to help me out, because I have only experience with one of these people in a really random way. So what did you discover about Summit VA Solutions when you researched them?
I've got a quick question before this though.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be right that there's probably two kind of types of engagement that these companies adopt? There's one where they're a kind of dating service where they basically do all the checks, or supposed to do all the checks, like what you outlined that you do in your own company, and then they give you one candidate or small, like 2 to 3 candidates, and when you choose one, and they get upfront fee, or they get a cut of you pay them and they pay the virtual assistant that's normally abroad. But then there's another company where it's more like a more traditional model where you're hiring the person from the company. Basically, they have a pool of people, they interview you, they say, well, this person in our company, and then that person is introduced to you. So am I correct? You've got these kind of two basic models?
I haven't used every basic model that's out there. I've usually just hired people direct. But yes, you're correct. Like the platform, the idea with Upwork is you pay 5%, you pay your people, and they take a 5% cut. But they take it from the platform. You pay through the platform, they take it out of the platform, and that's how they do it. In other iterations of my career, I've used hiring companies. When I'm hiring in mass, or like I'm in India, like for instance, and running a call center there, you'll have a recruiting agency that fills your entire call center, right? They're 100% responsible for hiring everybody. And that agency is taking like a finder's fee and a cut of your hourly wage. They say, we're going to provide you these people for $725, and you just pay the $725 per head and not worry about anything else. And they split the money on their end. Like I was never in accounts payable. I just know I paid $725. I paid X amount per head, and then sent it out to them, and somebody took their cut. As long as that per head price was less than a certain number that I had for my budget, I didn't really care. And as long as the work was good, which generally it was real. When you're hiring in mass, John, you're not getting high quality. Just like when you're getting 100 leads, you're not getting high quality. You're usually getting 100 kind of like not great people and a couple of really good ones. And that was always your job at the top of the stack, was to find that handful of good people and assign them to more elite call center jobs, like confirming stuff, verifying transactions, stuff like that, stuff that was really high caliber that required a lot of diligence on your call center services team.
There you go. So if we start the first one, Summit VA Solutions. Well, the kind of research I did was just looking at other people's reviews and articles, because I haven't got any experience of hiring people, but they seem to get good reviews. They don't publicly tell you how much they're going to charge. And the other thing I was going to ask you is, like, this Summit, they seem to have quite extensive list of services that they do, because they also include, I'm not sure you're going to be that enthusiastic, because they kind of, in the article that I'm looking at, they list SEO optimization and social media management. Their list of services that they're going to do is quite extensive, but I couldn't see what they were charging. Well, they don't publicly say. So the question I was going to ask you: do you think it's better just to have a kind of narrow set of requirements to start off with, and just go with one of these companies and just have one or two things that they're going to do, rather than letting them at it with this very long list that I'm looking at?
Repeat the question one more time, John. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I rambled, didn't I? I was saying, if you're hiring one of these companies like this Summit, that they seem to have good reviews, but they've got a very extensive list of services that they provide.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if you're starting out, wouldn't it be best just to choose one or two areas, and then thinking you're going to hire them and just let them at everything in your company?
Yeah, I mean, so for one thing, they're advertising VA solutions for stuff that doesn't make sense, like lockout, HOA, utilities, repairs, and a virtual assistant isn't going to handle most of those. There are things that they could do inside each one of those processes, but they're not very specific. Video creation, SEO friendly content. Somebody copied and pasted the Summit VA solutions list and then threw it on the website. The website's not very good. However, what is interesting is they do have a good set of pictures that make me think that the company is legit, because what they're doing is they're highlighting teams of 20 and 30 from 4 different countries on their photos, which makes me believe that they probably have teams in like Sri Lanka and the Philippines, and there's somewhere in Latin America as one of their teams. And that's interesting, because really you do want to, like, you can get a lot of great service from virtual assistants or overseas assistants. And another thing that makes me think it's legitimate is one of their pictures, especially from the Philippines, is all women. And that's very, very accurate. Most of my people are women, and they work from home while they're raising families. And that is a very true thing that you wouldn't know unless you hired a lot of VAs. Like, you don't know what you're going to get unless you've done a lot of it. And you do get a lot of women in a lot of different countries, which is, I've always found fascinating, but it's true. So anyway, I don't know if that really answers your question, but Summit does look relatively legitimate. There is also there's 4 people. Stacy obviously started the company, and Burdette Canero and Cecile Animas and Hannah Despida are all Filipino, which makes a ton of sense. So Stacy is running his company using nothing but overseas resources, which is brilliant. And so because you're doing what you said you would do in the by building the company that way. And I really like it. He's got 9 people listed here that work for him, a marketing person, all his support people. They're all obviously Filipino or Latin American hires. And I think that's incredibly relevant in terms of like a VA solutions company.
Right. The next one, Virtual Desk, does have their prices, a 450 setup fee, and the hourly rates go from 9.55 to 13.30. They seem to have a smaller list of services they providing. What do you think of them, Robert?
Well, I think that these guys, number one, in terms of their actual pricing, is insanely high. That's why they'll publish it. You know, require $450 setup fee and a 3-month lock-in period so that they can teach and train their people, the scripts and everything else. Customer service for $10.60 an hour. That means that they are pricing this at a minimum where they're making 100% profit on the hourly. Most of the people in the Philippines work for $2 to $5 an hour. So something like this, they're going to be really banking a lot of revenue. I don't know if I trust that or not. I don't know if Virtue Desk is going to have as good of reviews as everybody else does, but who knows? It's also a Russian that owns it, and that makes me suspicious too, to be really honest with you. Right.
Don't blame you. On to the next one. Okay. So if you thought Virtual Desk, because my Outdesk, it starts just slightly below 2,000 a month, but they're well, it's similar to the first one. It's got more, not quite such an extensive list, but more than Virtual Desk. But what do you think of these people?
Well, one thing I like about Virtue Desk is that they actually have
not virtual, my Outdesk.
Yeah, number one, they've got a picture on their My Business profile that is thousands of people, which they obviously flew in or flew to. Either the founders, flew to the country of origin, or they flew them in. Probably they flew to the company of origin. And I think and they have a ModCon. They're big. They're big. And I like that about them. They've got a good size. They're probably expensive because they seem to have infrastructure. A lot of Anglo-Saxons are in these pictures. That just means that most likely they've hired certain U.S. resources to build structure so that you can get proper value out of a $1,988 per month resource, because that's what it requires. You have to have a lot of organization, somebody running them, managing them, things like that. I like that. I like all that. They've also got some cool little clever tools on here. They're leveraging it on their website. They're giving you a job description tool for free. Not that you couldn't just, fire up ChatGPT, but still, they're making an effort. I like them. They look completely different than the Russian company.
The mafia. Sorry. On to the. They're not I'm not great fans. Well, I shouldn't say that. I know Russian people are fine. It's more their government. Task Bullet. This is a bit different because they are offering a price for Philippine VA, but they also got a price for US VAs. They've
right.
So, and same, because they're all kind of offering similar services, but I thought this was interesting because they're showing US and what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that they're doing, number one, I like their pricing buckets, the way that they're doing it. I'm liking how they're call to action, which is literally you can just buy off their website. Like I could buy a $3,900 resource. Now, nobody's probably going to buy a $3,900 resource directly off the website, but I do like some of the stuff. Like Task Bullet looks like another startup that's probably US based. Its website is a little backwards, but so they're not as big as ModCon, that third company on your list, they don't have reviews, which the third company on your list did. The website is so-so. So I'm not as excited about these guys now that I'm looking through the site. But I will say this, they look legit.
And the last one is a little bit different, is it's
Oh, Brivity.
Brivity.
Which was the only company I asked you a question about, because Brivity is Ben Kinney. So Ben Kinney, as he has done so good of a job in every single time, Ben Kinney is basically been building out companies for every single part of the real estate process. He bought CRMs and customer service people. He bought Active Rain. Like if he is buying everything, building up a process, and then he raised $1 billion for Place, because he keeps taking over every single part of the real estate process, because I think he sees the weakness in the entire real estate industry, John, and he builds out little companies that service it. Now, whether or not that means that Brivity VA virtual assistants is any good or not is another question. But of everybody on your list, I'd start here for sure.
All right.
No doubt about it. Because if Ben even has a half-assed decent real estate person at the top of the stack here, then this company is going to be really successful.
All right, fair enough. Because it starts, they've got onboarding fee of $350, and then part-time is $1,250 per month, full-time's $1,750, and then they've got project-based that starts at $350. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So and another fascinating thing is the only company, one of their people that they have on here is Callie Moulton. And so you go ahead and you look up Callie Moulton, and you get transferred over to her her Instagram page. And honestly, she has a lot less about her business there than other people do. She's focused on her lifestyle. I like that. I like that they're like, that says a lot, because if you're going to hire a virtual assistant, if you're going to build a business and processes, John, you are going to give up some of your income. You could do every job that there is to be done and make a little bit more and work a hell of a lot more. And that is not how I would build a business. I would build a business to work less and make a decent amount. And that's what hiring a virtual assistant is all about, working less and still making a relatively good income. If you're really driven and you want to make $1 million, you need an assistant. That's 100% for sure. You might as well hire a virtual one, because you'll save yourself a ton of money over an in-person assistant, unless you hire somebody with a real estate license, and then that person is running around helping you show homes and do the mechanics of your business, and then it makes sense to pay them $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year, whatever it's going to be. I would start with Brivity, though, basically.
All right, so we wrap it up. What's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are where we started. I think this is a brilliant subject. Anybody looking to build a great business in today's economy, today's world, you're going to want to look offshore. You're going to want to outsource your assistant work, video, social media posts, writing blog posts, local marketing, thumbnails. I can go on and on. I could think of 50 to 100 tasks, and that's assuming that you don't even want to get them into the transaction process, because you could do that too. You can get them in there. And a lot of this work, John, a lot of it is going to be done by AI relatively soon. So one of the ways that I would hire virtual assistants, everybody listening to the show, hear me on this, I would find somebody who's experienced with AI, that like is already proficient with ChatGPT. Do not be scared to let somebody implement AI into your processes. That's what I got, John. What do you think?
No, I was totally happy, because you're the one with the experience in this. I've got much more limited experience in this area, but I thought it was something different to discuss, and I thought you were going to enjoy it. I think I
did enjoy it. I really did. I love talking about ways to improve the quality of somebody's life, and in theory, if you get good at this, you'll make yourself a lot more money with a lot less effort. All right, so I've been Robert Newman. If you want to check more out about me, you can go to inboundrem.com, look at my about page or services pages. If you're interested in what we do, we build websites, we do local SEO, we help real estate agents generate leads, and we do it all without signing you up for stuff that is outside your control or that you don't own. John, how would you like people to research you or get in touch with you or so on and so forth?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Go over to mel-wright.com, have a look at our feature list. Yeah, I think you're going to be blown away. It's a consistent feature list of great tools that will really help you market yourself online. And you can book a chat and a demo totally free by going over to the Mel Wright website, right in the top navigation, and it'll probably be me that will do it. And we can have a chat. And like I say, it's a great, easy to use CRM, and it starts at slightly under $50 a month. So great value. Back over to you, Rob.
Beautiful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Tune in the next week when we'll have another interesting subject that will propel your marketing forward.